Imagine this. The year is 2020, and you work for the largest e-commerce company in the Netherlands and Belgium. You work as a tech lead in our shopping domain, which is essentially everything that is customer-facing. And while the company is a market leader and is doing great, your ambitions are actually even greater. So your CTO and your product and tech directors give you the assignment to figure out how to revolutionize your shopping architecture. And the goal is to get innovations out to customers quicker and more efficiently. You walk away from the meeting with the assignment to essentially redesign using a blank check and to achieve a big ambitious goal. So what do you do? Today, we'll take you along in the journey that we took, the challenges that we faced and how we navigated them, and most importantly, the things that you can take away from our journey. And this wouldn't be GraphQL Conf without at the foundation of the story being about GraphQL in an enterprise setting. So, my name is Lars, and this story was me a few years ago, where I got handed the assignment to completely redesign our shopping architecture, starting from a blank piece of paper.
Hi all, my name is Anne and Ngo. This is me, and on the left side that's my family, my wife, Nak, my daughter, Lynn. And we were here in Paris, and I was actually there for the API days, so not coincidentally, I was also joining the GraphQL conference today. So I've been engineer since 2008, and I did a lot around GraphQL, also with all the GraphQL initiative within Bol. And at the bottom, that's also me exercising my hobby, is basically Lindy Hop dancing. And I know that in the Bay Area, there's a big Lindy Hop scene, so I still want to attend one of those social dancing this week. So hopefully I can find them. Maybe one of you know, and definitely come to me after this talk. So the journey that we will bring you today. So it's all about how did we actually adopt GraphQL within our organization. It was definitely not easy. It was a roller coaster ride with a lot of highs, successes, but also really lows. So firstly, I want to give you the context of what is Bol. Next, where we started and how we basically did the proof of concept, how we scale up, and how we basically scaled in full migration. And we both going to share each phase, like all the challenges that we had, the successes, but also all the mistakes, because there were a lot of mistakes. And the focus not only on tech, it's also on product. So how did we basically invest into our organization to bring also product on board? So not only engineers. So first, what is Bol? Lars already mentioned, we are an e-commerce web shop since 1999. We're basically selling this Lego set, but also books, clothes, and whatever. You can find it there. So leading in the market in the Netherlands and Belgium, a platform for retailers and advertisers. Around 3,000 employees and 800 in tech engineers. A product organization. And the abbreviation there on the left, right, that's the YBI, YRI, and YLI. That's my favorite. And that stands for, apologies, I have to turn my back towards you, but it stands for. So you build it, you run it, and you love it. So that's basically our DevOps mentality, what we have in our company. But of course, we're not going to talk about DevOps. It's all about this, I think, our favorite icon, GraphQL. How did we actually adopt this GraphQL? So a deep dive into one of our main pages. So this is really an iconic page for our webshop, the product page, where we display all the product details. We have 3 shop channels, so iOS, Android, and web. And there are a lot of upstreams. So we have to fetch, 30, 40 upstreams to get all this data, and then we can render this page. There's a lot of things going on here, and we saw really a cost of innovation here, like cost to invest and also introduce new features within our stack. So things like underfetching, overfetching occur a lot, and here we really saw in our current stack that we had a lot of underfetching problems. And within our company, we call it the fan-out problem. So every innovation, we had to do it in multiple channels. And you can imagine over time, it really served us well, but not anymore. So this is a simple diagram how that architecture looks like. So we have those channels on top. We have a lot of backend for front ends, and then some service in between that does presentation logic, or there's a lot of boundaries crossed over services and application, and it really became a mess. There was a high cost here to innovate. So where did we start with our GraphQL journey?
Cool. So, as I mentioned, our journey starts in 2020, and this is when we sat down with our CTO. While our tech stack had served us great for 20 years, we started feeling the cost of 20 years of features, additions, and bolt-ons, and also, let's be honest, 20 years of tech debt. We needed a hard reset to set us up for another 20 years of success, utilizing what we learned these past 20 years, but now transformed into something that was made for our skill and the ambitions from the ground up. So, what do you do when this is the assignment that you're handed? You start researching. What's going on in the market? What are others doing? What is the competition doing? But also, you look inwards. What are we currently struggling with? But also, what works really well? And based on all of these questions and a bunch more, we came up with various designs and patterns that we wanted to try out. We took a couple of weeks to do a proof of concepts with our ideas. And at the end of those weeks, we settled on a stack that we believe would achieve the values that we were after. And obviously, at the foundation of this stands GraphQL. We got the green light to pursue this direction and got a team to make it happen. So as we move from our proof of concept phase to the phase where we start building this to production, here we focused on getting a first page live and all of the components that are needed to run it for real customer traffic for both our website and our mobile apps. Our main goal at this point is to validate our assumptions that we have and start building the foundations of the architecture. In this phase, we build a bunch of GraphQL APIs to expose data. We set up our gateway setup for our federation. And we set up a schema registry to tie all of this together. So armed with a plan and a large amount of ambitions, we set out with a team of engineers to make this, to bring to life this new architecture. But how do you make sure that you build the right thing? And secondly, that you build it right? Our thought was we better start validating our ideas quickly. It's easy to get caught up in your enthusiasm and try to tackle tackle 1,000 things at the same time. But how do you prevent falling into the pitfall of trying to do it all and not really succeeding at any of it? The main point here is to try and be picky and do a small number of things really well instead of a large number of things just a little bit. This gives you the time to give them proper attention and figure out what the right approach is. Maybe even throw away a solution or two to find out what actually really works. Focus also helps you to produce quality solutions. Besides building quality software, this is also a great opportunity to break free from the status quo because we always did it this way. Cutting corners here will quickly bite you in the ass because this is when you build the foundation that you will expand upon in later stages. And lastly, this was a big learning for us, is that focus really is your best friend. One of the mistakes that we made is to try and build out this new architecture with the same team that was performing the operations. And guess what? Operations always wins from innovation. So we weren't making a ton of progress until we split up the team into 2 separate groups. Starting out a big project like this will spark a whole lot of questions with a whole lot of people. They don't know why you're doing this or where you're going and how it's going to affect them. Their reactions can range from curiosity to worries or even to active resistance. And getting these people on board, sharing your story and showing them what you're doing is an important part of managing a big change like this. For us, this was an especially hard challenge, as it's a very natural thing in Dutch culture to openly question or vocalize your concerns to your colleagues, even when they are your superiors. We invested a lot of effort into this to get the people on board, and we did so through roadshows, Q&As, product demos, and walk-ins. Now, don't expect to do these just once. Do expect to do these 1,000 times over and sort of hope that half of the people roughly get what you're getting at. At this stage, I definitely felt like a chief repeating officer instead of a tech lead. But the results really paid off because our biggest opposers from the time are now active contributors that contribute a lot to the project. Now that you're building for real and trying to get something onto production, how do you actually make sure that you are building the right thing? And how do you limit the cost of a mistake? The risk here is to try and build out the perfect solution from the get-go with all the bells and whistles that you can think of. And the reality is that you have a solid plan and a lot of ambition, but your assumptions are yet to be challenged by real customer traffic. And you're bound to make a number of wrong turns while building your solutions. So the trick is to ensure that you validate your assumptions quickly, starting with your most foundational assumptions first. And for us, those were GraphQL and Federation. So we set out to migrate the smallest page that we could find to this new stack. And the smallest page in this context being a measure of the amount of features that were required to get customer traffic flowing through it. And even though we thought we went small, we still made the mistake that our MVP was too large. It's really easy to get caught up in this feature needs to be there and this feature needs to be there too. So find the smallest thing that will help you validate your assumptions with customer traffic and get that out as quickly as possible. Now, looking specifically for GraphQL, the worth of your API is connected to how much data is in there and the quality thereof. For us, it was not possible to ask a large number of teams to deliver GraphQL APIs for our validation phase. We needed their data, but we couldn't go around asking them to please introduce this new technology they had never worked with. So we decided to build what we refer to as connectors, which are essentially REST to GraphQL translation services that we build and maintain ourselves. And the added benefit of this was that we had the opportunity to play around and learn how to write proper GraphQL schemas. Throw away the model once or twice. And at this point, we also invested in setting up a schema registry, knowing that it would be a necessity to remain in control of our schema. We used the Guild's Hive registry for this, and we absolutely loved that. Now, lastly, besides validating all of your technical assumptions, it's important to track whether you're achieving the goals that you set out to achieve. In our case, this was fast time to market and more efficient engineering. After all, you don't build the tech for the tech, but you build it to enable the business. An example of how we did this was measuring the time to market through time of first commit to whenever it landed on production. And we found that the shortest observed times between the two stacks went from 36 hours to under 30 minutes, which is roughly an 80 times improvement. And these measures are also really easy to translate into a business case, which helped us maintain the priority for the project.
Yeah, so in the first phase, we basically proven that it works on production for one page. And we had the architecture there. And now it's actually the next phase, because we need to scale to our domain level. So instead of, I think, two teams working in the first phase, now going to 10 teams. More engineers, so more business involved. How did we actually scale? So after the first phase, we basically set this architecture, this our target architecture. So compared to the previous diagram with all the rest in the phases, we have now one super graph, the gateway, and underneath all the subgraphs. So this is our target, but we're not there yet. And there's a nice separation of concern as well. There you have, on the top, you have more the sub front-end channels. And at the bottom, really, where GraphQL really shine is basically the data aggregation. And this is more the text that we had. So again, the Chaos Hive really helps us a lot for the schema registry. You have on the right, you have the supergraph, and underneath all the subgraphs. And this really set us off to really innovate quickly within our shop. But we had one challenge, and it's actually, yeah, we have this new architecture. We still have the old stack with REST interfaces. We want to move to GraphQL. And on the consumer side, so more the front end, says, yeah, hey, we have this new architecture. Where and when can I actually get that data via GraphQL? The nice new architecture that we set. And then you have from the producer side, more the services saying, yeah, what the heck is GraphQL? What are you talking about? And lastly but not least, we don't have time. We want maybe to invest, but our roadmap is full, so we do not have time to give you that GraphQL interface at the moment. So this is actually where we are heading to, so from 1 to 3. And we saw that we had to come up with an intermediate solution. So Lars already mentioned that's that connector phase. So this intermediate solution to really bring quickly all your data from your landscape to that supergraph so the consumers can actually use it. And to do that, it also really quickly give the clients really the innovation speed. So this was really our lifesaver. And it's also a way to prove to our organization, well, GraphQL within this new architecture actually works for us. So this was an enabler. So this was a key enabler to do the rollout to our domain. So not from one team, but to various teams like 10 and even more. We also made a commitment within our organization. We're really well known of, okay, yeah, not making decisions, but as part of, within our company, we actually have an ADR, so an architecture decision record, where we basically put on paper our decision and also target where we are heading to. And we commit to it, and we share this. We also put this on our tech radar, so basically all the technologies that are basically being used within the company and also accepted, adopted. We also put GraphQL there. So to give all the teams like the confidence we are investing into GraphQL. A downside of this solution, of course, yeah, we have to maintain this. But we saw that this is an acceptable tech debt for now, and we are moving really quickly to the final destination where all the subgraphs will be in GraphQL. The second challenge that we saw in this adoption phase is that, yeah, how do you actually ensure that the high quality of schema? And how do we actually support all teams, engineers, but also product on GraphQL and at this scale? So we got a lot of those questions like, hey, what is GraphQL? Introduction, please. Hey, is my schema okay? What are the best practices? Yeah, what are all the GraphQL Federation features that we use? And how can I actually use that? So we basically started up like this GraphQL stewardship, so it's governance group. And it doesn't have only engineers in it. There's a tech lead architect, but it's also engineering manager. So we really want to also onboard like the product side of that, to bring them along in this GraphQL journey. It's not only tech. So what did we do? We basically introduced GraphQL guidelines, having used the documentation, we iterate over it, we evolve this. So it's about, about the naming conventions, how do you do actually mutations, paginations, etc. We did help teams on schema design, and we did also approval of the schema designs. We did all the roadshow and introduction, demos, etc. We held a weekly stewardship meeting where we discussed all kinds of topics that are ongoing. It could be also eventually ended up in our guidelines. And we support the GraphQL community. I will come back to this later. But things also did not went all nicely. There were also things that went not well. So we also got this, again, why GraphQL? We already have this nice REST API interfaces in our service landscape. Federation, what is that? Why do we have to learn that? Another API to maintain, etc. So what are our learnings in this phase? One thing that we also saw that, we are the stewardship group. We also need to invest time in maintaining the guidelines. Personally, the second one is really my favorite. Is in beginning as a group, we also saw, yes, new technology, new architecture. We can make this 100% perfect for the future. But we figure out that is not possible. There's no such thing like your schema is 100% perfect. So while learning, we also start to realize we have to embrace schema evolution. I think you have heard about it, and also a lot of talks about how you can evolve your schema. But this is such a big lesson to learn for us. Embrace schema evolution. There's no such thing as 100% perfect. And repeat. Have the roadshows, share the demos, etc. And in the beginning with the stewardship, we also had endless discussion on topics. No decisions were made. And we really took a measure there, okay, this is not heading anywhere. Every topic that we have on our agenda, we put a time box there. It's like, okay, for this topic, 15 minutes. After that, you make a decision or span out with a certain group, and then we do a follow-up. And I think that was also a lifesaver for the stewardship to continue. I already said I want to get back to this GraphQL community. How do you invest in a strong GraphQL community? At the start, we didn't had full focus on this. We didn't I wouldn't say pay attention to that, but it was not on our radar to really invest in the GraphQL community. But actually, over time, we did all the small things to have this strong GraphQL community within Bol. Because we also saw that not only the GraphQL stewardship will be your future GraphQL leaders or the ambassadors, but also all the contributors, like the engineers. Even your product manager that will basically touch upon GraphQL, they will become your future GraphQL stars. We use community channels, like within Slack, to really share knowledge and also around GraphQL, also giving support. We took one message that really helped for us was like, hey, as stewards, please reply within 1 day every support question. And after that, it really lifted off for us. Like, it became really active, the community, and it really basically drives now our GraphQL adaptation. And lastly but not least, give the contributors like engineers, product managers, whatever, who did something with the GraphQL, give them the stage, cherish them, let them showcase what they did. Even if it was really a small implementation and maybe the first step for them to make GraphQL API, give them that stage and give that credit, because they, again, become your future ambassadors and leaders within this adoption. So where are we now?
Cool. So now we arrive at the phase that we're currently in, which is our full-scale migration. Here, the components in our architecture stack are mostly complete and mature, and we scale up in the number of teams that we onboard onto the new stack. And we try to migrate as many of our customer-facing pages as possible. So the question then is, how do you scale up across the company? Funnily enough, even in this phase, focus remains your best friend. For us, now a team of around 20 engineers are running support for both the old and the new stacks, onboarding teams, providing operational support, and implementing new features. It's easy to get lost into all of the things that are going on, so keep finding the balance with focus, and don't be afraid to say no, or perhaps not now. Especially as you scale up with a lot of new teams, it's easy to be overwhelmed by the rate at which those new engineers can produce work. And while it's really awesome for teams that have never worked with GraphQL before, it's also a trap to lose focus on quality. So by scaling up, you naturally involve a lot more teams and people, and each of them are going to have questions or need support. And your team basically can't handle all of that. To help us navigate this, we leverage our communities a lot. Our GraphQL stewardship group that Anne mentioned is widely recognized as a group of schema design experts that help you refine your schemas and apply best practices according to the guidelines. Another thing that we did was create new ambassadors. And these ambassadors are a group of people that are very closely aligned to our vision, our values, and our goals. And they help carry these out for us. And lastly, we leveraged the investment that we made on writing solid documentation or standardized building blocks for teams to cover a large portion of our supporting workflow. These solutions helped us handle at least a good chunk of all of our support questions, and they allow us to keep working towards our own goals while also helping others. So, what's next for us? We're full steam ahead in migrating all of the remaining pages in our new architecture stack. And looking back, I think we can say with confidence that we have achieved the goals that we set out to achieve. And that's something that I and Anne, and also the amazing colleagues that were on this journey with us, are definitely very proud of. And luckily, GraphQL is still standing very strong at the foundation of it all. There's much more knowledge that we couldn't share today, and even though many of these learnings are not necessarily tech related, we have been really involved in building this entire stack and can answer any tech questions that you have for us.
Yeah, so this is basically the conclusion slide. So how do we actually invest in tech and product? So here you see all the not small things, but the message that we took to bring GraphQL really in production and at this scale. And we're really full force now to bring it also to the next pages. And so you see, we took small steps, we are focused, and we've proven in small steps that the technology is working on production. We did all the roadshows. We have GraphQL toolings in place. We have also insights monitoring. We didn't touch upon that yet. We have the GraphQL schema registry. It helps us a lot. We have the stewardship in place, the community that is really active and strong. You could use the documentation that we are having. And last but not least, we also put this really in our architecture decision record. We are really committed to this with the whole company. Put it on the tech rate. That was so important for us to really bring everyone on board.
Cool. So to finish it off, the reason that we wanted to share our experiences here today is that we had such a warm welcome to the GraphQL community. So this is us at GraphQL Conf last year. We had so much help and great discussions or insights that helped us in our efforts. So this talk is our way of giving back to what we learned and hopefully pass this on. We found that the GraphQL community is really strong and there's a lot of information available and many solutions exist out there. That also said, sometimes there are things that you need but aren't available yet. As Lee mentioned this morning, he wants to encourage us to contribute. And this is why that I personally built an open source GraphQL Protect, which is an all-in-one security proxy to protect any HTTP GraphQL API. There were already solutions available like GraphQL Armor or persistent operations modules, but they required you to commit to a certain stack, and none of them were in an all-in-one package that is plug and play. It's something that I missed and had a great deal of fun to build and share with you. So use it to your advantage. Thank you. And we can answer any questions.
Yeah, so basically how we are building a community and how did we invest into that? I would say it was also already part of the DNA of Bol, so the engineers. So it's like that you build it, you run it, you love it mentality. So that's also within our DNA, and we actually, as stewards, we also supported that. So we actually gave the engineers or any colleague at stage. So we're at the demos, we're at the roadshow, and if they did really something amazing with GraphQL, or even it was small, we always thought, hey, can you maybe also share your experience? And also share what kind of things did you really run into, like mistakes, so also sharing mistakes. And that's actually the confidence what most of us needed to basically build that stage and sharing our knowledge.
And maybe to add to that, as we were working with a small number of teams, as you mentioned, we were head first in the tech. We also invited them over to work with us on certain challenges, and through that also exchange the knowledge that we had onto them, so that they could then go out and share that knowledge further. Yeah, so it wasn't really as much as a burning platform, but it was a interesting combination of top-down, hey, we want to get this done, but then also bottom-up ambitions of actually wanting to create something that was much better. I think most of the resources that we had were really tech-focused and much less change management-focused. So we definitely had to read up on how to do that and take a few courses there. So yeah. I think in general we had a sort of an interesting position there because we were mostly operating from the back-end perspective, but everything that was customer-facing. And within the company, there's a much larger group that is, let's say, fully back-end. And then there's the front-end facing community. We were sort of sitting in between those, and we had those questions from both sides. It's actually working really well. Not really experiencing any overfetching in that sense. It's actually no, it's actually working quite good together. So one of the things that we were after is to be able to do really quick iterations on our front end, and I think to date the record for going from complete fresh start to production is less than 16 hours. So that's really impressive.
So if there were any latency changes, like in the connector, no, we haven't experienced that. There was some latency, but it was acceptable. And we are really moving quickly also from the connector and replace it with the native implementation. So,
yeah, and I think if there's additional latency, it's in the form of single-digit milliseconds. I think at Bol we have generally very performant services, so a few milliseconds here or there is generally not noticeable. All right, thank you.